See, like my box is still working.
Nobody's stolen it yet.
I'll invest in another one if need be.
So I can't fall out.
All right, so Anthony called me in the morning.
That's all. You'd be dead.
Tomorrow. Perfect, thank you. Anthony called me in the morning. I don't want to talk.
You're like, oh, I'm pretty close.
So that's why you're going to go. One of these for each of you.
Can you do two jobs? Can you take some here? What about getting say you're drinking? So we should, I love this to
Mike. You okay? You're in pain.
Been a long.
And she's expecting her first period shot. My wife was like, so yeah, just tomorrow morning.
Good evening, all. This is the second of our historic workshop sessions. Historic, yeah? Means it's new, yeah. All right. This notice is being held in accordance with the public laws of 1975, Chapter 331, adequate notice of meetings were provided by notice sent to the Asbury Park Constable, River Times Star Ledger, and posted in the main lobby of the municipal building and on the municipal website. Please rise to the pledge.
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Councilman Taylor? Councilman Whalen?
Here.
Councilman Yangstrom?
Here.
Councilman Ballard?
Here.
Councilman Ziprich?
Here.
Councilwoman Horgan?
Here.
Okay, we've got a lot of stuff on the agenda. Let's see if we can go through them rather quickly. The first is administration. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. There's a couple of ordinances, resolutions slated for the next agenda. First one, follow up on the redevelopment agency award discussion that happened at the last workshop meeting. We did go out to bid, for lack of a better word, on these, advertised it, and we received one response in response to our solicitation for proposals. They were provided to you as part of your packets. I just want to bring this back to you for your consideration and ask what you would like to do. And we should proceed at the next meeting next week with a resolution.
I think that we should move ahead with it. We are on a roll right now. This implements the policy that has been set forth in our report. It also is something that we really must do as quickly as possible. It is a part-time position. It is a special employee that is not receiving benefits, or the company is basically a separate company. And frankly, we're going to be, if we go ahead with this, we have to adopt a developmental fee ordinance with respect to the escrows that will be collected for any and all work that is done with respect to applicants. So those are my thoughts on it.
Mayor, I'm not sold on this, and I'm not sold because we went through a hiring process for a business administrator who specifically had these types of skills. So to add another position or hire an outside company to do this doesn't make sense to me. I can't understand why we're doing it. We have people in-house to do it.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I don't agree. I think that we do need, Z has so much on his plate right now. We've all read the report, the 50-page report, and he is implementing so many things. I think this will help us to move forward quickly, and this is something we need to do. But that's my opinion.
No, and you know, I understand the thought behind it, and I don't totally disagree. But again, you know, we went through this long process, and one of the things that we particularly wanted was an administrator who could take on our development and redevelopment. We knew it was an issue. We specifically looked for someone who had that skill. And to now say, well, he's too busy. I know we wanted him to do that, but he's too busy.
I would thought the same thing, but I mean, are we looking, are you focusing on this from a financial perspective? I mean,
And an efficiency perspective.
And this is why, if I may, this is why I prefaced my remark by saying I think if we go ahead with this, one of the things I think we talked in the general sense is that because it's supposed to be paying for itself, it's going to be neutral with respect to our operation space, that we have to adopt at the same time. If we go ahead, if the council wants to go ahead, we have to adopt a collateral, a parallel ordinance that specifically specifies the costs and the applications, the review fees, and all of the other parameters that this office will have to deal with. It's not somebody coming off the street saying, hey, I want to talk to this guy to see what I can do with the property. No, it's not going to be like that. They have to set forth an escrow, there has to be a deposit, and there has to be an application submitted with the fees paid in advance. So that's what I'm saying. I think that if we do it right, it will be neutral in terms of the expenditure part. I'm not saying we're going to make money on it, but at least it will not be a negative, because that's the way some of the other towns are doing it. Now, with respect to what Ziad is doing, I think that he is going to be dealing with those same aspects, but at a much smaller level. I mean, the small applications are not going to go through this process. This is going to be presumably for large applications, and we have to look at the whole scope of the town in terms of doing that. I know there are a number of parallel agencies that you're also dealing with, and I think we have to devote a full-time sort of activity, not a full-time employee, but somebody who specifically will be charged with doing these things. I just want to make sure that we have a neutral base for the actual payment that would have to come from an escrow fee that the developers would have to pay. Otherwise, they don't get to the process.
I like to hear your point. I think you make a couple of good points, but I do think that this is something that the council should go forward with. I do think Z, obviously, he oversees the borough and the 100 different facets and operations that we have currently running. He's the head of all these different departments and helps oversee them. So we're creating this other redevelopment agency to then micro help with the redevelopment, which I obviously have been passionately talking about. And I think it's just a home run for Red Bank moving forward. And if we appoint the redevelopment agency, obviously they've done a lot of groundbreaking work with the report, with the execution, helping hire and bring in Z. You're bringing in a team that has been doing a lot of work for the past year that's going to hit the ground running with the changes that Z's trying to make throughout the borough. I think it will create this efficiency because you have 3 different teams now that have been working together for the past year And this is something that Red Bank, I believe, desperately needs. So I think, you know, we strongly urge the borough, the council to take action on this.
I think we're all in agreement. I think the point that Michael is, and you can correct me if I'm interpreting what you said wrongly, is that in the job description that we crafted when we were looking for a new business administrator, one of the items there was redevelopment a redevelopment skill set. And I think part of the reason that we all agreed in hiring Zia was that he brought that skill set to the table. Am I encapsulating what
Yes.
you're
Yeah, exactly right.
articulate? I mean, you know, the problem that I see is, if I'm interpreting what Michael is saying accurately and putting on the finances hat, is, are we spending more additional monies by doing this, as opposed to letting Z handle the redevelopment work?
And how long is the contract? 6 months? The proposal?
And any contract would be as long as we make it, but I think that if we are going to be moving forward in the next phase of dealing with challenges in terms of what we are as a community, I think you'd be shooting yourself in the foot by saying 6 months. I think that the contract can be broken, say, upon 90 days' notice, because again, they're part-time employees, they're contract employees. But I would not put a sunset provision, except a termination provision on the borough's plan.
I'm sure our borough attorney
What I'm talking about,
can
right?
craft that handling, couldn't you, Greg?
Yeah, just
You
the
talking about an
sense.
ordinance for escrows to pay these fees?
I'm sorry?
So GSG's fees will be paid for escrow for the developer's proposed project?
Yes.
So
But
that
not
would,
initial.
I'm sorry.
We have to put in some seed money, correct? That was my understanding.
But I think.
Well,
it
no,
would
I think
reimburse.
the seed money is with respect to actually starting to pay the developer, but we're gonna make up for it.
Yeah, I mean, one project is gonna, I mean, think about any projects that we haven't been able to do for the many different reasons over the few years. Creating this agency that's gonna help put the correct projects into our community at a more efficient rate is gonna, I think, overfund significantly, just based on the processes that they're gonna be able to eliminate the bureaucracy and a lot of the red tape and the political back and forth, to have this body to be able to say, look, this is a project and this is why it's needed and this is why it's beneficial. And again, those fees are being paid by the developers. So I think if a little upfront, where we know after 1 or 2 projects are going to be able to hopefully pay for that, then I think it does make sense. But I think it's smart to obviously look at it from the financials, but I do think it's going to pay for itself.
So don't we get escrow money now from developers?
We do.
For basically, right?
Board of professionals.
But see, we get those as part of a zoning board application, a planning board application. We're talking about things that will be prepared even way before any application is made, because you're dealing with a lot of issues such as affordable housing, you're dealing with a lot of issues such as maybe private-public partnership contracts and third-party contracts and relationships. Those are all going to be things that are going to take time. I'm fully confident our administrator can do it. I'm fully confident he has the brains, he has the technical ability, and he has the energy to do it. By doing it, he's going to be engaged in spending 30% of his time on that sort of work, and that means we'll be falling into the same trap as we fell years ago.
what's your 30% based
What's that?
on? What's your 30% based on?
Just a hunch.
Okay.
It's huge,
I'm
it's
not
huge.
gonna beat a dead horse. I said not to be said.
No, I
appreciate
respect
the
your opinion,
dialogue.
I'm just trying to articulate why, what
No, I-
some of the basic thoughts were behind it. I know that we're passionate with the Housing Authority, I know we're passionate with Red Bank Affordable Housing Corporation.
Mhm.
We're passionate about getting more affordable housing units as part and parcel of any future development that comes into Red Bank and trying to make it work. Those are all things that are going to take an extraordinary amount of time. I think our borough attorney will tell you, he's been through it in Aberdeen, he'll tell you the type of time and energy and meetings that it takes with state agencies, with financial forecasting agencies, and bond on issues?
I still can't get past it. Again, I don't want to beat a dead horse. It's going to be a long night. But I don't know why we look for a particular skill set, interview for that skill set, and then don't utilize that skill set once it's on board.
But he will be involved with it. He will be with, and that's not the only reason we hired him. I mean, he has many skills.
big.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Okay, next, Mayor, I just,
I just said, what is, how is this going to impact our budget at this point of the year? I know in October, when we look at the financials, we're probably going to this budget.
I'm going to work with our CFO Eugenia to be able to certify the funds. So as long as we can find them, then we'll include that as part of the recommendation for full certificate. Thank you. Chairman Lumpy.
Yeah, please.
Next, I'll call our engineer. There she is. Come on up. With the report, the engineer submitted her September report of things that have been going on, but we do have on the agenda 3 resolutions that are slated for the next meeting. They've been discussed. One of them is for Eastside Park and Mohawk Pond Phase 1. Lori, you want to just talk about that briefly?
Yeah, so we had open bids for this project last week. As you'll recall, we have a 2015 county open space grant for the project. That grant is an amount of $223,000. We opened bids. We had 2 bidders that had applied. We did have a third, but they missed the opening. And the low bidder is GR Masonry Work. Their bid is in the amount of $427,325. So it's really in line with the costs that were submitted with the grant and in line with the funding. So we've recommended award of that contract to them. There were no irregularities within their bid. We did call them because we were concerned about the pricing for the building because that's not allowed to be assessed at a certain way. And they were comfortable with their bid and with their pricing. So having said that, you have the resolution on for award, and I think you also have construction administration services to CME for the inspection
The
necessary.
award for the contractor comes down below, is listed under public utilities, and the award for the engineer is listed under the administration section. So that covers both. We also have, any questions on that?
Yeah, what was the other bid for?
The other bid was from Precise, and it was in the amount of $523,000 and change. Probably the just exact amount. It was $523,900.
So almost $100,000 less.
Yes, that's correct.
And they're reliable, we've checked into it.
That's correct.
Yeah,
We've
yeah.
all their references, and they all had checked out with it.
There's another award to CME as well for the construction services for East Bergen Ave. That's as it relates to the change order that we're talking about. Any questions on that one?
That was the one that we were looking for additional
Correct.
funds from.
Both bonds.
That's right.
Just one thing, because I've lived through the prior work on East Bergen, maybe 10 years ago. What we're doing is fine. I've spoken with many of the neighbors, and their concern is they know why we're doing it. They're fully in conformity that we have to do it. But they said that some time ago, when that pump station was put on the corner of Wells Fargo and East Bergen and Hudson Avenue, representations were made that it would be shielded and there would be some shielding on it. And obviously, most of us have not seen much shielding, or if there was, it died a long time ago. So, as part of what you're doing, just make sure that as part of the finishing touches, that somehow we shield the area of the pump station,
I can
so that they don't
look
have to
into
look at it 24 hours a
I
day.
can definitely look into that, but I will tell you my only concern is I have to make sure we can get access.
No, that's fine, I understand that, yeah. But you can have access to that from the rear, which is the area in back of it by the bank.
Again, I'll look into it.
Yeah, as you go to the bank driveway, you can go right there.
But the controls exist, the controls are, they exist and they open out towards the road, currently. And there was no proposed modification screening the area.
No, we're not saying about changing the controls. They want to screen a little as much as possible so they don't have to look at it. Yeah, they said we had promised this like 15 years ago, whenever we did the first job.
And then, yeah, I'm not sure, we did get an updated schedule. We just wanted
Yes,
to
that was
touch
what I was
on
going to
that.
say. So as part of the change orders that are also listed down below in the finance, the change order for East Bergen, so we're not going to cover that in depth when we get there, but for the change order and the award to CME for those construction services, we've got an updated schedule that tomorrow will hopefully go on the website. I know a lot of people have been asking about the delays there, so you will get a copy of that as well, and it will be posted to the website. in case you-
Yeah, I think that people are saying they want to know what's going on and when it's going to be done because, you know, they're going to, so.
Yes.
It's being done thoroughly.
Yeah,
All of the subterranean work that needs to be done for the utilities, because there's a lot that road that would be used. So,
There has been a lot, we did a lot of voids.
I read everything you sent.
There's been a lot, definitely in that fashion. And just so the council is aware, once the utility work is done, we have a 90-day settlement period before we're actually going to come through and mill and overlay the top.
That type of information is not known by the general public. That type of information should be on our website.
And it will.
It will, it's just all of these were unforeseen as a result of once the road was open. So that's hence the delays, and we've got an update ready to go. Exactly. And then lastly, another engineering resolution. This one is to T&M to continue their work for construction administration services with respect to the Locust Avenue Pioneer School Road. That one also has been moving along, and T&M has been the point engineering firm on that project for inception. Okay. Any questions on that as well? Okay. Laura did submit as part of her report. The highlights in that report are the road program dealing with phase 2 of East Bergen, which we talked about. The 2019 road program, she touched on that in the report as far as including utility improvements for White Street as well. It included an update on Shrewsbury Ave streetscape, noting that the application was submitted. She talked about the DOT grants for fiscal year 2019. Eastside Mohawk, Eastside Park, Mohawk Pond, we talked about those just now, and finally the 2018 open space grant as well. Things in the report. Any questions for Laura? Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. I apologize that I have to talk and run.
She has 2
I'm
minutes.
double booked.
Thanks,
Thank you. Have a good night.
The August grants report was submitted. Any questions there? I should have the September report this week, which will be included in the next workshop.
Okay, thank you.
Right, and then
Parking.
Parking, everybody received an update on that. Survey was finally released today. We got the link finalized with our consultants. It's on the website, and it's on Facebook, and so please help disseminate that for the public. There's a survey as part of our study, and we encourage as many residents, businesses, and everyone to participate in that. Any questions there?
Is that going out to the public?
The survey?
Yeah.
Yes.
And they'll be invited to participate.
Yes,
Yeah,
they are.
that's all.
We just put it on the website for everyone, and it's on there. And then information technology, a number of, this is our first report from Matt, as I mentioned before. We're going to be getting more and more reports from some of the department heads. IT was my next phase. He included an August and September update. Some of the major things that we're working on are our email server and our VoIP capabilities. They're woefully inadequate, and if they're updated, it will help us just in terms of disaster recovery and dealing with emergency situations needed in August in the storm. Flooding, I'm sorry.
What is the timeline on that?
Google has already started implementation, so probably the next, by the end of October, my goal is to roll it out completely, and then hopefully VoIP will have something in place by the end of the year.
And so for the risk management, state, we all our stuff in the cloud.
To the cloud.
Worry about,
Yes,
the duplication.
yes.
Okay, good.
I did include a draft of the personnel manual that I went over with our labor attorney. It was a very thick document, so I don't expect that you have reviewed it all in depth. Some of you probably did, but, I'm sorry?
Interesting read.
Very, very. But there aren't many significant changes to it. It still follows the same template, follows the original document from last year, but adds some additional language related to the Workplace Democracy Act. SEPA updates the whistleblower laws. We included a social media policy in there, an acceptable use policy, and a bring your own device policy. all as part of this new manual. If there are any concerns, I can hold it until the end of October resolution, or we can have it for the next meeting for resolution to adopt at October 10th.
I don't have any problem with putting it out for October 10th.
Get it done.
Okay, let's get it out of the way.
I just want to mention,
Yes.
and we talked about this, Zee, about getting the packet for this meeting like the end of Monday. So I haven't had a chance to go through everything. So I may have a lot of questions or at the
No,
next.
yeah, and if
Well,
meeting,
if that's the case, I mean, we can table the introduction.
I'm not saying table anything, I'm just putting out there that I haven't had a chance to go. How many documents?
it was a lot of.
There was a
It
lot.
was a lot of information, and I apologize, you guys got through it, I just didn't.
No, the goal is, we're still getting in the routine of all the reports, the department's getting the reports, and the goal is to have it done Thursdays, Friday, next meeting to Friday, and then Thursdays ultimately the goal. But the department heads and I are all working, getting into this routine, which is why I went out on Monday, and I think you're right.
Okay.
But that's why I said, if you want to push it off till the second October meeting, you can do that. Or if you're fine with the 10th, then.
For the report?
For the personnel.
Okay, I'll tell you what, Michael, if you don't have it.
I'm just saying, I'm very uncomfortable for voting on things, and I don't know what I'm voting.
No, that's what I'm saying.
That's all I'm saying.
If you don't have a chance, because it is a bulky document and not very interesting.
Right.
So if you
Well,
don't have a chance to go
When we
through it, just get it.
highlight the changes, but the changes are highlighted. I've had a chance to even open
Yeah.
the file.
So mine took a couple of hours to download.
And as part of that,
It
thank
won't
you,
be the library, it's
Madam
still
Clerk.
downloading.
I just.
Yeah, one of the things, and I apologize, I forgot about this, one of the nuances here is a lot of the personnel manuals also adopted by code, in our general code. So we have a manual that's been adopted, and then it's, large parts of it are in our ordinance as well. So what I've noticed in talking with our labor council is the manual's been updated, but the code has not. And so the advice of both he and I is that we remove that section completely from the code, simply reference to it that it will be adopted by resolution. That way, you don't have to go through the 2 hearings and adopt it, and then have this in your code and it be outdated. Most municipalities is best practice, and I'll defer to our attorney over there. Greg, if you think that that's a good practice as well, should we keep it in our codified ordinance or just take it out?
I have preferred to see the manual. It's a lot easier to update that way. It's really governed by the employee's acknowledgement and receipt of the actual personnel policies and procedures. Of course, assuming they apply.
Right.
Otherwise, state law and collective agreements. There's no real, you can put it on the ordinance, you don't have to. I usually prefer the personnel manual because then you can
It's only in one place.
adopt a
Right.
resolution.
Yeah, right now we have it in 2 places. Part of the cleanup was we found all the inconsistencies and had to go back and forth, so.
It's easier to just reference the ordinance, personnel manual is kept on file
Yeah.
from administrator's office, and then all collective bargaining agreements are from the personnel manual. It makes it easier.
Right, so if that's acceptable with the council, we'll have an ordinance worked on to repeal it from our codified ordinances and institute it by way of resolution.
How will that impact anything that any other ordinances that it references?
It shouldn't.
I mean,
There's a section of the code that spells out a lot of stuff that's not accurate because it hasn't been updated. There's another section that just says, we adopt the manual dated, whatever, with no details.
So they're in conflict,
The
right?
one section is just, it still says we get Columbus Day up, we've been out for 30 years.
Not all of them.
So that, yeah, so as I said, it's in 2 different places and I don't.
So we would remove the part that says where it is in ordinance and just leave the part where it's by resolution. So is that fine?
So will it impact any links in the heat or,
No, they'll take general code and take it. So she'll cover the whole chapter where it outlines all the wrong stuff.
Okay.
Move on.
The next one was a request at the last council meeting for discussion on the special rulings. There were limited brewery licenses. Since then, the state has suspended that. So
So
if
we
we
don't
want to
deal with
address it, or,
Now, let's see what happens when the state level.
Yeah,
okay.
and then we get through Riverside.
Yeah.
Everybody received a request in their packets. There's a request from River Center for a number of things. Jim, do you want to touch on any of those items? Does anyone have any questions? Jim, come on up. Is there any questions? Otherwise, if you could all approve those, or not approve those, but I recommend approving them, so that way Jim can go ahead with all his holiday affairs.
Yeah, there's no real changes to the decorations or the lights. It's pretty similar to last year. The holiday free parking, we removed 2 days from the December time period right before Christmas, just because of how Christmas falls this year. And then, like last year, we included Black Friday and Small Business Saturday. And then our list of events, there was an event that we added on Monday after the special events committee, which I believe is going on the agenda for the 10th, which is ice skating and live snow globe on Broad Street on Sunday, December 9th.
Ice skating, where are they going?
We are having a temporary ice skating rink brought in.
Is it like what they do in Oak Ridge?
Yes, I think it is similar. Yep, synthetic.
So it's going to be, where exactly? On Broad
On
Street?
Broad and Wallace Street, right in front of the vault. So that was the new addition.
What was the ice skating?
And the snow.
There's a live snow globe that you can go in and have pictures taken.
Oh, I see.
Stuff like that, yeah.
Shake.
Just trying to draw more people in. And with that, we'll have, on Wallace Street, the plan is to have some, crafters and vendors outside. Kind of create that
Festive.
holiday,
yes,
festive
yes.
atmosphere, yes.
Christmas market or holiday markets.
So unless there's any objections, we'll have the letter on the October 10th meeting for approval.
Yeah,
Thanks, Jim.
Thank
thank
you.
you, Jim.
Mayor, that's all I have under administration.
You want to get the police, the
Fire chief. Oh, he just stepped out. Okay, missed him. All right. We'll go then to the clerk.
dramatic announcement.
I used to participate. So I forwarded a report to everybody, kind of giving a year-to-date of where we look. If you have any questions about that. And then I just wanted to review the meeting schedule. We have our meeting on the 10th, we have one on the 24th. The ones in November are shifted around a little bit. It'll be the first Wednesday in November, second week will be in the week, the third week will be Thanksgiving, so the second week will be the fourth week of November. And then December meeting will be the second quarter, always. We discussed the possibility, we did cancel the second meeting in December, we did that already. So there's just one meeting in December.
And there's one in October 11th, no?
10th.
10th.
Yeah, that's what we're preparing for now. Right.
Yeah.
And then
Just
following
one.
that, there's the 24th, 7th, the 28th, and then next is, which one is December?
I noticed on your report there were a lot of birds.
There's always a lot of
I
birds.
mean, I was so.
That's kind of what I thought, yeah, that's,
Amazed.
it's standard, that's
Yeah.
the numbers, yeah, the average. Yeah,
There's
that's what,
marriage.
kind of wonder, but a lot of towns don't deal with that, unless you have hospitals.
Yeah.
That's a very busy part of my office that I don't think a lot of people recognize. So, yeah, there's a lot going on with that. And all the corrections, everything, there's a lot of work that falls beside.
All right. Any issues with the dates?
No.
All right, thank you.
Finance.
Our CFO submitted her budget status report for both August and September because of the timing of the workshop meeting, so you have two budget status reports. Eugenia, you want to just touch on that? Anything significant?
Not really. Everything's pretty much, fit according to schedule, most of the departments, as you can see. And that's all I have in regard to the budget status report.
It was reviewed, as she said, it's on track. We're about 75% of the way through. There's nothing unusual there. We're going to be reviewing the next couple of weeks in advance of November. Any areas where money does need to be transferred between accounts, and we'll provide a report to you on that. But initially, I don't anticipate anything significant that needs to be transferred. It seems like it's a good budget and everything's on track.
And will the department begin the budgeting process for next year?
They have already. Yeah, they have already. We've received, or we put together the salaries and wages for just about all the departments. I think that's all complete. The CFO has formulated a template for all of them. They've all been, right now, they're submitting their capital request because we don't have a 2018 capital bond ordinance. And as I mentioned, I think at a previous meeting, I want to do the 2018 and 2019 all together. So that's a priority right now because we have roads that need to be done. The 2018 road projects and the 2019 road projects need funding. So right now, that's taking a little bit of our time, but in the next, by November, December, we'll have that ordinance ready for you, and then be ready to finalize the budget draft.
Any anticipated savings this year that we can roll into next year?
In terms of savings, I think what we're going to see is a reduction in debt to the tune of somewhere around $500,000 based on our repayment schedule, and so that's going to help us tremendously. And then some operational savings, but they're really not going to be realized until next year. As I mentioned, some of the technological improvements that we're making, those should certainly help us. Any questions?
Anybody else? Okay.
The Banking Services Award, there's a memo from Eugenia in your packets. Any questions, concerns on that?
Yeah, I mean, we've decided on one, it seems, but I thought the idea was to have spread it around to several, but maybe I misunderstood.
That was an
To several
option. It was
banks.
something
Oh,
that
okay.
could have happened.
Okay.
It just, when you look at the way they come in, Eugenia and I reviewed it, and we could certainly spread it around to one more, but it would just make things messier, to be
Okay,
honest with you.
that's fine, I was just,
But
I
it-
thought maybe I
But
misunderstood.
in years past, we've always used multiple
Yeah,
banking institutions.
but this one doesn't charge for,
The whole idea, we personally have Valley National Bank. Valley National Bank, we have 9 banks, as you can see in the report that responded to the RFP. Their interest rate is pretty much the same as what we're getting right now. In the RFP, I also entered there to have courier services. So in this way, instead of the police department, right now the police department goes twice a day, once with the court, the other one with finance. They go to the banks and they make the round. So we wanted the courier services, we have to deposit within 48 hours pretty long. So to have them pick up here, and besides the parking, because right now they're picking up the parking, they're going to the parking department. So to have it also come here and for the bank to pay for that. And Valley National Bank was willing to basically reimburse or pay for the post carrier service. Another thing is we go through with the credit cards. Right now, credit cards parking for Parks and Rec is only like $1,000 a year. But for parking, or the cost for credit cards is like about $40,000 a year.
Eugenia, could you go over, I just want to go back to the question. Can you talk about the accounts where you presently have banks?
Right now, we
So-
have it in 2 River Community Bank this moment because we wanted some of the local banks. The interest rate right now, it's not that great, it's less than 0.5% that we're paying. In the RFP, they gave 1.6%. However, it would not be because of everything the Valley National Bank also is picking up the credit card fees and all of that. So it would be most beneficial because of the carrier services and the credit card model to combine them, and because of the technology that they have, that we can take advantage of that to have it all in one.
So right now we have with 2 banks.
We have 2 banks.
but we will go to one now.
We can go to 1, we can go to 3.
Or we can go to-
No, let's go to one, I think it seems that we're saving a lot of money.
We save more money and it just makes things a lot easier in terms of not having to worry about different banking all the accounts, escrow slips, everything. It's nice to have everything in one centralized place.
We
And
can-
then it was an RFP, so.
We can keep some of the smaller accounts in the River Bank, the ones where we don't have daily deposits, because that means we will have to bring the deposit to them. So that would be an option if Mayor and Council wants to keep that. We can, we can analyze the accounts and see what would work the best.
My ultimate recommendation is we just stick with 1.
Do you recall what the reason was why we used so many different
We
facilities?
wanted to be,
I think we want to be local banks.
Or the
Provide their
smaller,
business.
smaller.
spread the wealth.
Yeah.
That's what we have, Valley National Bank, and we have the River. We We have TD Bank only stay all when they used to be the bank before 2012 when we were out for an RFP. But we, the Valley National, was there last time, so we're going with the bank we only have.
So that
It's
will
correct.
handle all of our banking for,
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. That's a good way to feel about that. We're
Give
saving
all
a lot of money.
services and expenses.
Yeah.
Is there any value in supporting like Two River? I know they support us with some of the stuff going around town. Is there any,
Frankly, I don't see the value to be that tremendous. You know, a lot of these banks anyways, they're becoming more and more regional. So you've got this local branch. They're really, their hierarchy, their organizational structure is all very regional now, or even national. And frankly, I think it weakens our position again the next time if we want to do this when a bank sees that, hey, we'd still potentially lose out on having our money, all of our money with them. If we can show that we're going to pick one, then the next time we go around and do this, they are more apt to be more competitive.
Waive all the fees.
To
and that,
realize
yeah.
that, hey, we're going to get all the business of the borough, not that the borough's going to pick and choose.
Keep one bank all
That
the
would
way.
be a big savings.
Yeah, yeah.
So we have a recommendation.
and they're going to provide cardio services so that nobody from the finance department has to run out and make.
Finance, police.
Finance, police, and
Court.
also the court. We
Makes
do
sense.
we
Good.
added the court.
Yeah,
So then the money
that
just
makes
gets
up
the
all-
carrier's fault.
Savings, right? Let's do it.
It savings and frankly even a revenue maker for us.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll proceed with that.
So what approximately, what is the savings that we're going to realize?
It's in the. it's in
I would
the-
say it's between $75,000 to $100,000. And the reason that the number is so large and it's, documented from what was in the proposal, it's closer to 60 to 75. I'm saying up to 100 because we don't have merchant services yet for the whole borough. So merchant services being the credit cards. So once we start to roll it out to more departments, then that potential is even greater. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we can't put a dollar amount to those, but just right now, in one department, it's almost how much?
40,000
$40,000.
for parking because the average transaction is so small, you know, the parking meters, and that's what gears the price.
Anything else for finance?
And just wanted to let everybody know, we have a tax sale on October 1st was the deadline of the tax sale. We started with 162 accounts going to tax sale when we first had to advertise it, and the tax collector and her staff, they did a great job. We have just having 37 accounts finally going for the final count of the tax sale. Out of that, everything was sold, and except for one account because it's presently in foreclosure. So nobody wanted to buy it because of that reason. But if in looking back, and I think looking back, going back to 2012, this is the lowest number of accounts that we have done, and we have had going into tax sales. 37 comparison, the highest was in 2013, 117.
So we started at 162 and we're down to 37.
Yeah. They do,
And 162, that's the 2012 number that you just mentioned?
No, the 162 when we started, she has, when she had to advertise it, she has, she has by law,
Z, do you have this list?
Yes. You want it?
No, but when we meet with Tom and, Z and I are meeting with code enforcement to discuss some of the more difficult problem properties where municipal courts not having any impact because they're either absentee, out of state, or some other beyond the jurisdiction of municipal court. So it would be very helpful to have that, particularly if the one that wasn't sold that's now municipally held is one of those properties that we're talking about, then 6 months if we can file a foreclosure, that'll speed the bank foreclosure up, turn it back over.
this property already has prior links, and the prior link holder is the one that, right, Anisha, the prior link holder is the one that started the
Yeah,
foreclosure
but
procedure.
generally speaking.
But in the tax
it's a
sales certificate,
foreclosure
the most recent.
matter, they're gonna prepay the outstanding account as part of.
But we can at least get the money.
Yeah.
I guess we'll either get
That's
the money
what-
or they'll speed up the foreclosure.
Yeah.
So in the tax sale context, the later filed lien is the superior lien. So even if someone else has tax sales or a mortgage, our municipal tax sale certificate is superior to that. So if we take action within 6 months to counter that, they'll either pay the money, which is important to the borough, or they'll complete the turn the property over and put it back to useful beneficial use. I don't know the address,
The
but I
amount-
can believe, guess what it looks like. if
The
you don't
amount
buy it.
that we have is 12,554. Just the amount of
Okay,
that one.
That'd be great. Yeah, $250 complete, they'll pay that after 6 months. All right, so we'll keep that in mind, and we'll touch base with that with code enforcement. Try to see those two aspects. Thank you.
Good, that's it. Anything else for finance?
Thank you.
Take a look at it.
Thank you. Thank you. So Cliff's up for public utilities. We do have a resolution that's laid under his department. That's the East Side Park Lawn Pond improvements. We talked about that with Laura. He submitted a report for August and September. Any questions there? Cliff, can you just touch on some of the highlights?
Sure. I just want to make sure everyone's aware that we spent most of the summer down 4 employees. In August, we had an additional employee, so we were down 5 through September. We're starting to get them back now, which is great. I just want to make sure that you're all aware of that, that the guys who were here have been pushing very hard, in combination with a couple of people we've lost over the last couple of years. It's been difficult to keep up with. I think they've done an admirable job.
There was still injuries,
Injuries, injury, not all at-work injuries, but
Yeah.
a couple of small.
So does that include the employee that you replaced we left in the beginning of the summer?
No, 5.
So it's 6.
From injuries. So things like brush pickup, we have been able to stay on schedule with, so I'm very happy with that. I think you guys have seen that. Street sweeping, in the report, we talked a little bit, or actually you guys talked a little bit last meeting about the potential of an odd even ordinance for parking. I just want to put that in your mind again. And we'll have more conversation with that. Great news on the street sign replacement. We should see signs up in the next 2 weeks.
We have the brackets. in.
Hardware, they guaranteed me delivery by mid next week, so that's why I'm saying 2, just in case they delay.
From the co-op.
From the company that we have the co-op, yes. So
Every street sign in town.
every street sign in town.
Wow.
Don't
That's a
forget
5-way
the
around.
replacement until they're finished. All goes along that.
Okay,
That's
got
right,
it,
and then
yeah.
I feel like it's like a
somebody will
secret.
knock it
Yeah.
down.
Well,
They did in my
then the
lawn,
whole-
they
right.
went into my lawn, my
Yeah.
front lawn.
So I'm very excited about that. I just want to make a general statement. Our storm sewers are meant for rainwater. And I say that to let your constituents know that they should not be putting anything in there. We've recently had a couple incidents that have opened their eyes to some poor things. Garbage doesn't go in there. Sewage from a trailer doesn't go in
Are we
there.
allowed to ask questions?
Yeah, what's that?
Are we allowed to ask questions from the audience?
Okay, no problem. Sorry.
I apologize. Okay, and the other big piece of news is Borough Hall. We've gone through the process with the insurance company. All Risk has been contracted to redo the building. We expect movement on that in the next 2 weeks as well. So you should see, once construction starts, it should be pretty quick in process. Lee and I are meeting with them next week to determine colors. And I think those are all my things. What's that? No. Not really public. Any questions?
That's how the
Wonderful. Thank you.
I do want to add, since DPU is here also, they've done a fantastic job with the cleanup around the town. As I've mentioned at previous meetings, we are ensuring that code enforcement is following through with residential and commercial properties. Similarly, if we expect others to treat their properties well, we expect our properties to be treated well. And that's one of the things that I've made sure DPW stays on top of. Our painting of curbs and crosswalks that's being done, signs that are around the borough that are just faded or antiquated, bent poles, all of that stuff, they're taking care of those, rusted items, all that kind of property maintenance that we should be doing on our own property, they've been tackling. Two of those items that recently have been spoken about publicly by people who are misinformed and just seek to put out rumors out there that are completely false. the tennis courts over at Marine Park, okay? That is simply property maintenance. It's been de-weeding. For whatever reason, some people are trying to twist that and trying to misconstrue what's actually happening there. There's no plans other than we wanted to clean up the park because that is a centerpiece. A lot of people park there. Oyster Fest was in the borough last weekend, and I certainly could not stand the sight of weeds and vines growing all over the fences, and it just looking disheveled. So that's really all it is. There's no plans to do anything there other than making sure it's maintained properly. If grass will grow there. And then finally, I know there was a concern brought up at the last meeting about Eastside Park, the baseball diamond. That baseball diamond is also going to be cleaned probably in the next 2 weeks. Buildings and Grounds is occupied with a lot of projects, but that's in the queue for the next 2 weeks. Nothing major is being done to that park only because we're waiting to hear what happened with our Monmouth County Open Space Plan that we talked about at the last meeting.
I have an update on Eastside Park for you. It was done mostly yesterday. There's a small patch by Home that we'll take care of.
Do you have fall ball? Is there a fall ball that plays on the baseball diamond?
There's fall ball, but it's not there.
Not there.
I was going to say, because, I mean, obviously, there are other projects that are more important.
Usually sophomores there, these
A baseball diamond in the fall isn't, obviously, shouldn't be the first priority of the borough, given that there's no baseball season being played there.
There's pickup though.
I mean, right, but I'm saying it's not a formal.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
So that's why they're just doing the de-weeding and not really
That
doing.
makes sense.
Typically, it's
That's gonna happen.
tackle your baseball diamonds in your fields in the spring, early spring.
Exactly, yeah.
Right, and we're not digging out the dirt, putting in new dirt or anything like that.
Because that would be so
Clean.
sense.
So that's all I've got on it. Any other questions for DPU?
All right, perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cliff, congrats again.
Thank you.
All right, let's get the chief, emergency management chief first. Basically, both together.
Chief, come on up. Under the police chief, we did get a report from him for August. The September report, because of their closeout period, will not come until next week, and so they'll get that with the October, or I'm sorry, the next workshop meeting. Any questions for him on the August report?
Crimes down?
I wouldn't say down. We had 22 reportable crimes in UCR crimes in August. We're probably a little bit higher than that in September, but let's see.
He did provide, he and I have met with the undersheriff at the request of the council, the mayor. We did meet with the undersheriff to talk about the sheriff dispatch. The chief did revisit the numbers. The sheriff's office revisited their numbers, and we sharpened their pencils as best as we could, and ultimately the chief provided a recommendation memo to you all. Any questions on that?
Is it still as much as it was when we looked
It's
into
the
it a
exact
few
same
years
price.
ago?
They did not change their price.
Yeah.
Parts of it changed in that we no longer have to pay for the software, dispatch software. They would cover the cost of that because they obtained a universal license in the last 2 years to get as many as they want, and they would cover the cost of that. However, to offset that savings, they are now requiring us to switch to the trunk radio system, which we don't have. The trunk radio system that Paul switched 2 years ago, and it cost them $325,000 to switch over. So we would spend about $350,000 on the radio system.
Is that the newest technology?
It's different technology. It is newer technology, but it's different technology. But that's the only thing they'll work on. It's a pretty big outlay, and it's something that we aren't, if we don't go to the county dispatch, we have no need to switch otherwise for our own operation.
Some municipalities do have to switch. In my previous municipality, we did have to switch because we did not. We have here UHF, right? If you have UHF, you don't need to switch over to the trunk radio system. Those systems can cost, as the chief said, for some municipalities, we spent almost $600,000 to outfit all of, because you want police, fire, EMS. So if you can avoid that expense and you don't have to make that switch, then I would advise against it. It's certainly the technology of the future, but it's still not refined. There's a lot of complaints with that new system as well. The voice is not clear, it's very digitized. We've got a lot of issues with it, and so it's still an infant technology, I would say.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
So as the chief outlined, right now, maintaining our local dispatch comes at a cost of almost $250,000 a year. Going to the county dispatch would come to a cost of almost $340,000 a year. That's going to represent almost $90,000 increase. And in there, what he did do is he put the debt service of, say, $50,000 a year. That's for the radios, but assume that's going to be for a number of years. So after that bonding, is paid off, you eliminate the $50,000, you're still looking at an almost $40,000 a year increase there. At some point in the future, we're going to have to go there, without a doubt.
See, and that's, well, the county, like, so in my opinion, like, so 3 years ago, the chief, myself, and all three of the fire chiefs at the time went and got the whole dog and pony show from the county, and the county built this facility, the gorgeous, crazy facility that you see kind of in like those TV CSI shows. It's actually really, truly is remarkable. It's freehold.
Oh, yeah.
But they built it for the whole county to come over, but I think, and the chief, we talked about this, and just, tell me if I'm wrong or if you think as well, but in a few years, the county's gonna have to start incentivizing the different boroughs and municipalities to come over because they're built for the entire county. So right now, while we still have it would cost us a lot of upfront money in different areas, hopefully in maybe 3, 4, 5 years, when the county realizes that, okay, they've hit their peak of the towns that are coming over, how can we kind of force them, and we force us by maybe incentivizing us in other ways. So hopefully down the road, we can eliminate some of these big upfront costs because they say, maybe you don't need the trunk stuff, you can do something different.
And they have done that with the universal license for the software. That is to incentivize departments to come over because most departments say no for that reason. Now they have done that, but in the meantime, their technology has changed. What they're using the trunk system. We did ask about grants that were available for a trunk radio system. We were told they're not for the any town the size of us. They're looking at town cities like Chicago, New York, LA. But 5, 10 years from now, they may be looking at towns like
If
ours.
there were to be any incentivizing, I think it would be in the way of that capital equipment for the radios. I know, for example, in Union County, they were offering almost up to 10 radios for the department. That's a huge savings. And that's where the money is going to come from. The trunk radio system is being implemented off the sale of old frequencies to commercial entities who need them. So when that transition was supposed to happen by, I think, 2020, you're probably going into 2021. As more of these auctions happen for frequency, that's where that money is supposed to start going back to municipalities and public safety. So probably in a few years, we'll start to see more money open up. And if there's any incentivizing, as we said, Councilman, I'll probably be that agreement.
And the technology will in years.
So it's probably like a 5-year window to read down this again to see if it's worthwhile. Then it's basically up.
So, see, the freeholders or the sheriff, you have to decide how they're going to incentivize all the municipalities to come over,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Is it a combination of both of you?
I mean,
It's gotta be both.
it'd probably be both, the freeholder would work with the sheriff and figure out the ways to bring us over, but I think until then, we put our feet in the ground and we say, give us something, throw us like a few more bones where it makes sense for us, and I think it will come.
It makes sense to do it ourselves because it's less expensive.
Are there any surrounding towns that we could try to dispatch for? I've talked very informally with 2 smaller towns around us that are looking at doing a shared service between the 2 of them and us bringing them on. The problem is we would have to add staff to do that, and that's a question for everybody about if those towns are interested. If we're interested in adding staff to handle somebody else's dispatch. Our dispatch is very busy now. They couldn't really handle 2 more towns. Now I know that they can handle 1 more town. We have 1 person on the desk at a time. We can get something. When we have something that's busy, like a large storm, so you need more manpower, and then you get into personnel costs. So whether we want to take that on, it's something to look at. But
They're generating revenue.
if it's a positive, right? But it would have to be a positive. And
Are they currently with the county?
no,
They're under.
So they have a potential savings because they're paying essentially what we're paying and doing it on a much slower level than we are.
And more
Those
helpful.
towns right, but those towns are half the size, well, half the volume of us, if not more.
Maybe more affluent towns, perhaps.
So it's also, I've spoken to the chiefs in those towns about it, and it's on their radar, but it's also whether or not their governing bodies want to give up the local control of their own dispatch.
Yeah.
Some towns, or they don't take on the cost of it, just to have it localized.
Chief, can I, how long ago were those informal conversations?
Within the last 3 months.
Oh, I give them another
As part of this, and they're still going through their decision on whether or not, I think they're doing it on a trial basis on midnight shifts right now to see how it works out, which is a very baby step, but whatever, it's what they're trying to do.
Thank you. Anything else? No. Thank you, Chief.
Well, along the lines of the dispatch position, before that was actually approved, right?
Yes, yeah, I'm sorry, I apologize, that wasn't listed on here. I did email you all about a shared dispatch position that we advertised for, and she finalized that. And so the resolution to actually appoint one will be forthcoming.
Thank you.
That was the one that was discussed for
Yeah.
last year.
That's the workshop.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Anything on EMS?
No, ma'am.
Okay, no problem, we'll carry that. All right, then we go to fire. Okay. Recreation, Charlie.
When I did talk to him on the way in, he said it's been a boring 2 months, which was a good thing.
That's good, we want to see it point. Thank you, Michael.
Jinx it.
Well, thank you, everyone. So between August and September, we wrapped up summer camp. We were under budget for both salaries and expenses, even though our numbers were up. Surveys came back very positive. A few things we got criticized on and totally fixable for next year. As for fall sports, the heat and it's a better indoor location, both of which we're working.
Summer is now.
Wait.
Fix that for next year.
Charlie's been the same.
Always change that, Charlie.
The heat is tough. I don't think you can mess
One
with
of the
that.
things we're thinking about is the charter school menu option, because it was gym, so I'm meeting with Meredith. And we actually had the middle school gym, it's just, we ended up not using it as much as we expected. We do have an indoor location, it's just
How
not.
about the Salvation Army?
Yeah.
That's another option, because I think I met with the new executive, whatever the executive officer, who's brand new, and he's looking for more partnerships. So reach out to him, he's a very nice young man. I'm sorry?
Based on what we got, I mean, we're happy to go into the working living room if we can.
Wow, watch it.
But what suggestions were made? So for fall sports, we're underway with soccer. We added one more team. We do have 2 fall ball teams. They play at Cal Basie. We didn't have enough for flag football, so we postponed that one. And we're currently taking registration for, well, this Friday we'll start taking registration for creative writing and passing classes. The big events coming up, the Egg Hunt, which I'm happy to say that is now fully funded by the Red Bank Business Association. Business Alliance, RBBN. The parade's coming up. We have our movie next week. We're trying something new, which my team's really excited about, which is holiday camps. So when there's teachers' convention or spring break, Martin Luther King Day, Columbus Day, like Monday, we're doing a day camp. The win for us is we get to provide a good program. The win for the kids is they get to have fun. And the win for the parents is they get 5 hours of coverage and a day off. So we're pretty excited for that one as well.
Or a day that they don't have a holiday, like Columbus Day.
It happens when the kids are off and the parents work, so I've done it elsewhere and we're pretty, and we're only doing until 12:30 the first time, but assuming it goes well, we can stretch it out to a full day. Art show's at the end of the month in October, and then Veterans Day is over on November 11th. So we're lined up for that as well. So yeah, I touched on some of the projects. We also have fencing being repaired at Count Basie and lights being repaired as well. Financing.
Excuse me, when I read that, I thought you were having fencing.
Tell the story, yeah.
I'm like, oh, wow.
I'm ready.
On guard, touche.
Just financials for August, we're up about 12,000 compared to last year, down a little bit in September, and mainly that's just because we got a lot of fall registration days a little bit earlier than expected. No major upcoming ordinances or policy changes on the horizon. Questions, thoughts?
Question
Sure.
on the games at Camp Basie, especially the RBC games, some of the more heavily performing ones. You've got to remind whoever's running it up there, there's absolutely no parking, no overflow parking, and no block on the grass. Constantly, every weekend, when they have large games, cars are parked all over the park on the grass. So the police department have been enforced, have been authorized to issue summonses because that's really public space and we can't have parking on the wall.
Are you speaking specifically to Friday nights or just in general?
Friday nights generally.
Yeah, it's,
So they, I mean, it's just very easy for them to park in the auto lots or the liquor store and walk up half a block down. But it just, it's not acceptable for parking in the grass of the park.
Agreed.
We're gonna be spending money to upgrade it and we don't want anybody messing with
the whole two blocks out there becomes a parking lot.
Yeah.
You can't even drive through there on during the games from school and 2:30 till 10 o'clock at night. It's like almost like, close the road, that's already.
And this Friday will be one of the biggest of the year.
Well, they have to be reminded because, I mean, the police are gonna be asked to enforce the no parking on our parkland at that Vermont.
That'll teach you.
Tough luck, they can park, they
You
can
got
park,
work.
Absolutely.
or they can park at the Red Bank Catholic parking lot on Peter's Place and shuttle or walk. There's plenty of parking at Red Bank Catholic. There's no excuse.
What's Todd Frazier?
George can also parking repeats.
Beautiful sun,
Great. I think
Councilman, you
yeah.
mentioned
Yeah.
Todd Frazier is a player for the Mets, was on the Yankees last year, so. And he's doing a camp
Yeah.
for us. He's got a discount. It's a great program.
This year too.
So, and he does it with such class. I remember last year he sat with every kid,
Yeah.
every little brother,
Yeah.
and talked to them about their grades. They signed 12 things per
Right.
kid. And I think sometimes, I think it's get a bad rap, but this was the exact opposite of that sort of thing. So I was really pleased with him. And the baseball sort of nuts and bolts of it.
What brought him here? I mean,
He's
what was
all-
it?
so-
Oh, I always hear
He was on the,
Oh,
he was actually on one of those, the Little League World Series. He won when he was a.
Oh,
He won a
okay.
Little League World Series.
Oh, okay.
All by yourself.
Yeah, I just had one thing, some of the seniors.
It's not Joe
They want
DiMaggio,
to
Joe
know
DiMaggio.
if Jason Park is going to come back to Chuck E. Cheese next year.
Yeah, I was a little shy on revenue this year. We didn't have it, we were late. I talked to Bill about trying to get it certified. Yeah, there's two thoughts. One, definitely bring it back to there. But two, maybe there's a way we can shuttle some of the seniors to the other jazz concert.
They'd rather us to do.
Johnny
Johnny Jazz
Johnny
Park.
Jazz,
We need
but also
that.
Joe Maggiolo was sick and he gets involved with that as well, I think, with Johnny Jazz. He has
But-
one.
We can sort of
Yeah.
for next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Charlie, I had a quick question about the holiday camp, which sounds awesome, but how are you going to staff that?
So far, it's Oscar, myself, and Cindy.
Okay.
We're maxing at 24, so that's a 1-to-8 ratio, and we're only at like 14 right now, so if we need more
Okay.
kids, we can get them from high school. Just, there's kids that need service hours and stuff like that, or other people that
Eagle
volunteer.
Scouts and stuff.
Oh, okay.
It's only to 6th grade too, so we can even grab a couple of 8th graders just to, but we'll make it work.
Is
But we're
that
not
for-
paying anybody, which is nice.
Is that for Red Bank kids or?
Just Red Bank and just K to 6, or 1 to 6 grade.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. Mayor, I'm sorry, I forgot under both finance and DPU, I circulated a letter to all of you, request as a result of an unusual billing anomaly for sewer. As you know, Riverview Towers, a couple months ago, had an issue with their employee asset. They sent in this letter of request. I did meet with their representatives, the board president, with our CFO and Cliff, our DPU director, to go over what happened there. Obviously, there's a water billing issue, the pool uplifted, there's certainly a water issue there. But that water that was consumed did not correlate to actual consumption of our sewer system usage through our usage system. As a result, the billing on the sewage end of things ends up costing almost $50,000 to them for just one quarter. They traditionally only bill around $16,000 to $17,000 a quarter. I reviewed it with them, and we're looking at essentially what their highest usage would be for a quarter of 17. 17 is even more conservative. I would recommend that we adjust their account to credit them for that, because it really is, it's all gonna end up hitting their residents who are taxpayers, and they've got to find a way to come up with an almost $40,000 bill for 1 quarter, which none of them anticipated, and certainly does not affect our bottom line in any way. We didn't account for it, we budgeted what a normal usage would be, and so, you know, based on this, and these extenuating circumstances, I recommend that we make an adjustment to that association for that amount. But I do want to circulate that to you. It would have to be done by way of resolution. You know, this is.
It was extraordinary, first of all. I mean, I lived at Riverview Towers 25 years ago. It's a 150-unit housing space. 150 units, so there's maybe about 225, 234. But the way that the pool is configured on the property, which is on the exterior of the property by the river on sort of a patio, what happened there is sort of detached itself, and that's where the problem. There was no way that the building would have known that this water was not ending into the line. It was into the pool, and ultimately now they have to even replace the pool.
And they're not disputing the water, they consume the water, they're paying their water bill, so that's not the issue, we're not gonna get hit on that. It's simply that their sewer, you know, because the sewer bill correlates to the water bill, their highest quarter charge is $16,497. That quarter of normality was $59,760. That's $59,760. There's a difference of $43,000 that they have to make up in 1 quarter.
I may have had an accident if I saw a pool breaking up, so maybe there's some legitimacy to increase sewer usage. I'm just saying.
We went over, I mean, there's no way, there's no way that amount of water or sewage was going through the system, it's just not.
It's
No,
sort of
makes sense.
proactive, so, you know, it makes
Yeah.
sense.
Okay, so we can put it on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I meant to do it. But that's why we're giving deduct meters for the irrigation, right?
Yeah, but I don't think it's that, this whole summer, I didn't have.
Years past,
I'm just playing devil's advocate, right?
we can live in the past or we can move forward, and that's what we're doing, doing the right thing moving forward, I think.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, senior citizen.
Jack?
Well, she's not a senior.
Not yet, almost. All right, my report is a 3-month report. We do a quarterly report through SAMS. So, just to go over a few things, to explain why the numbers seem a little odd is that in the summertime, I was without my administrative assistant for 7 weeks, and then with vacation, people had already planned, and then I had a family issue also. So actually, the numbers are really good considering that the INAs, which is where we assist people, forms or doctors, that was basically just me, and 17 was 129, and we did 157. So it didn't really affect anything because we all teamed up together, we all did everybody's jobs. And actually in August, we had our biggest new clients, which was 9. A senior center usually averages maybe 1 or 2 new seniors a month, so that was really good, so the work is going out. Some highlights that are coming up is our Wednesday lunch, which is on Monday, our Halloween party, we're going to Atlantic City in November. We are adding some new activities in December, so more of an educational type of lunch. We're going to do a Hanukkah lunch on the 5th of December, Christmas lunch, Kwanzaa, which I already have someone coming and talking about that, because that way they get educated on it, because I'm not so ready for Kwanzaa. I've learned it, it's celebrated, but they want to learn. They love to learn, so that's a little something for them. That's basically about it.
Check if the up to 9 new members you have, so they all work with presidents or they sort of hybrid?
I want to say out of the 9, about what, 6 of them are red bank and 3 are out.
So Jackie, I know we've done this in the past, and I know you've given us, but I think it would be helpful for the council in the future, maybe at year end, not necessarily now. So as you wind down your annual report operations, I think it would be interesting for the council to know a tally of the participants at your activities at the center, breakdown is in terms of residents and non-residents, and also their point of origin for where they live. We've had discussions with other municipalities in the past in terms of assistance from them, but it's always been negatively replied to. But I think it would be helpful. There's a lot of new leaders in the area, so it'd be nice to try.
I can actually put that out for the Sands probably too, so I would get that to you maybe in January.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, some sort of annual report. I think that would.
Yeah, I think most of the council should probably visit the senior center because the seniors love it.
Yeah.
People come and visit them and stop by, so I think it's
Essentialistic.
yeah. So it's big to go visit them.
And I just like to have tea with them.
Yeah, or coffee.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you,
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Len.
Okay, Mayor and Council, under land use, we do have a ordinance proposed. Glenn's been working with the River Center on this and have come up from last few meetings about commercial recreation uses, also known as the entertainment uses. Glenn, you want to just talk about the highlights of that one?
Sure, we define commercial recreational uses and we make the permitted uses in all of our retail and retail zones. And that's it's fairly simple. You like the concept, we'll send it off to Greg. Make sure it's.
I'll change the font.
Speak a little bit louder, they can't hear you at all in the back. Speak a little bit louder.
I've always had that. Yeah, so the issue was commercial recreational uses, and the ordinance is to permit them in various zones that currently allow retail uses.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely going to help with the vacancy rate, so we got to open that up for more service-based businesses.
We've been moving from
Yeah.
things to buy to things to do, and it's limited for most of them.
So unless there's any issues, we'll have that slated for intro at the next meeting.
And that's good because the vacancy rate is between 5 and 6% at this point, which is pretty darn good. So this will just help fill that void.
And there's another ordinance that he's working on, it's still in the works with River Center, and that's the sign ordinance. So hopefully,
That's a 5-year effort.
yeah, so hopefully it'll be done by the end of this month. Okay?
We have one with council.
Only without a move.
That was submitted in my report, if there's no questions.
So I do want to highlight though with Glenn, there's 2 reports now. So he's got his August and September report, but there's also a development projects report. I thought it was important based on some feedback. I'm sorry? That's his pipeline, yeah. That's all the things that have come through the land use office and are either sitting in land use still for various reasons or in the construction office. Maybe they've got their approvals and they're sitting there. So we're trying to develop this tracking system so we can look at things that start to stagnate and then call up on those developers to find out what that hiccup is and get them moving along. Because the sooner they can develop, better for our taxes, better for the borough.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if I brought this up last time, but I wanted to see if Glenn did a report maybe a year and a half ago, which in his first year, all the changes he did.
I don't remember that.
Planning, zoning, yeah, before he got here. So, but it's actually one of the most incredible turnovers that I've seen in the borough since I've been here from one department. It really did a remarkable job, and it was something that we were able to look at. But now that you're here and we're having all this record keeping, I think it'd be smart to maybe just submit that again to Z so we can see what you've done from when you got here and to catch up to speed. Just because it was so informative for me. And obviously, new council members, new borough business administrator, if we could just put that back on record because you just did a.
I think, Michael, your point is well taken, but it's really a 2-point analysis. Number one, as a result of the intervention which this council has taken with respect to Glenn's full-time status here as the director of planning,
average turnaround on applications has been substantially decreased in terms of span. Number two, the number of applications that people have to spend money to go before either the zoning board or the planning board has been cut back by at least 60% of what used to go, just because they didn't even want to interpret it before, just passed it on to the board. Glenn has taken a lot of that out, which has saved a lot of time and money for people doing business with the town. So the old adage that, you get lost in the paperwork and rent that forever is no longer the case. That's a whole person's thing.
Right.
And the other aspect of that point is that I think planning would be helpful for the council to know the total amount of fees that your office has collected because of your individual reviews as part of your functions. And that is two ways. Number one, it pays for Glenn's salary. That's number one. And number two, it also is a bonus for the applicants, even if they don't go before the board, because in the old days, all of those applications would have had to go to P&M, and the cost would have been triple or 4 times more than what they're being charged with, because it's a private company. And so we're saving for the taxpayers and people doing business, but we're also not losing money. We're actually making, well, maybe we're about even in terms of what we get, what we pay Glenn and what he brings in.
And we calculate that, and we do about 60% of our planning and zoning board reviews in-house now. And those are the 60% of the smaller applications. I'm a licensed planner, not a licensed engineer, so as soon as you start doing parking lots, it has to go to the engineering, grading, drainage, lighting, and those engineering type things. But the 60% of them by number, not by size, go in-house, and we've been generating, I think the past 2 years we've been doing it, it comes somewhere around $25,000 a year in revenue. I charge that to the applicants, and it doesn't come to me, it goes to the borough. And you probably see that on your bill list every once in a while. You'll see there's charges. And if you want, I could just maybe every time I'm here, so we don't take too much time, just go over one topic maybe. And I do them quick. And one of them is I actually didn't prepare for tonight, but didn't know you were asking the question. Was what we call zoning or development permits, and those are where we interact most with the citizens of Red Bank and the property owners. We do about there's 396 so far this year. This year we're up about 2% from last year, which was a record, and we're up about 33% from 2014 when we were just starting to coming out of the recession. So as you drive around town, I think you see this. You see things, you see construction going on, you see things happening, and that's reflected in our number of zoning permits that we do here in the borough. So that's a fairly high number. We also made some simple changes. Again, this is the stuff this is our bread and butter, the stuff that everybody, people that deal with our department deal with C2C, and we actually just did simple things like change the form, which used to be this form, there's two pages of, this used to be what everybody did 500 times a year, 400 times a year, and we went to this form. So just made it simpler. And instead of requiring a notarized signature, which is not standard in the field, we simply got rid of it, which was a pain in the butt for people to go and have to get notarized signatures for property. And then, and then we sped up the time. And I actually went back this month and calculated that we did 36 over this month, and 24 of them we did the same day. We got done the same day, 7 we did the next day, and the other 5 somewhere between 2 and 7 days. And that's because of those, we have to send those out. Some of them have to get sent out to other agencies, River Center, Historic Preservation Commission. So even those are coming back. All of this last one came back in 7 days to get those done. And that's done a couple things. And also now we email out everything. We don't send anything in the mail. So people get it. Not only are we done with it that same day, but they get it the same day because it's being emailed to them. We're not having it postage and stuff like that. And that's actually saved us a lot of time, because a lot of our time comes when when people don't get their stuff on time, they call you. And then you call Z, and then Z calls me, and then I spend my time explaining why something wasn't done or what the issue was. So the quicker we get them out, actually, the less work we have to do.
So can I have a bunch of your cards so we can cut out the middleman.
So,
Go right through.
and that took up enough of your time, so next time we'll talk about it sometime.
Thank you.
Thank you. Was that loud enough, Cindy?
I didn't complain.
Okay.
They did.
So I do have to point out, Fred continues to do some fantastic work over there. He's been putting these reports together, which are known as pivot tables in Excel, and he's figured it all out. And so he's doing a great job getting this data out of Mitchell Humphreys to put these together. And Fred, if you could just talk about the highlights, what's happened in the last 2 months?
Inspections for August and September are pretty consistent.
Can't hear any.
Fred, just talk a little bit louder, please.
Yeah, that would be great.
Inspections for August and September are consistent.
Yes.
Does it work? Inspections for August and September are consistent, approximately the same amount, but we're ahead of year-to-date. We're ahead of what we were last year. Notice and orders are getting tracked. They're about similar good numbers as last year, but we've closed out about one more than we did for the whole year last year. Certificates of occupancy for the months are consistent. Year to date, we're ahead of what we were the prior year.
Any questions for Fred? Are you doing what you're doing? Okay, we don't have anything on fire marshal, right?
A report was submitted, but
Right.
he's not here. He has a scheduled day off, but I can feel no questions there.
I think it's self-explanatory. And the court, we received your memorandum in terms of the deputy or part-time assistant court administrator because of the retirement. So, any objections on that? Put it on.
I sent that email out this afternoon. It's, yes, yeah, I did get it. So that employee is resigning. We've had it, actually, she resigned. The employee resigned, and that was due to health reasons, unexpected health reasons. So I spoke with the court administrator at length about this. We reviewed it, and staffing levels, in both of our opinions, I think are where they should be, and necessitate that this person is replaced. It's a part-time individual, it's budgeted, and it's a
Part-time person. Yeah, and by the way, there's so many former court administrators who are now fully retired, who are certified court administrators, who are looking to get out of the house 1 or 2 afternoons a week, and they would be perfect candidates. The ladies in the circle of court administrators, they are, that would be a bonus for that.
So there's no opportunity for efficiency within the office is to, nobody has bandwidth to maybe take up those hours, because I know it's budgeted for this year, but it looks like a potential savings for next year that we're gonna forego.
And actually, the question that comes to mind really is, at what point in time do we start to use attrition to, reduce the size of our staff, which is part of management? I understand each one of these departments needs these people, but, I mean.
What does the AOC say? Because you guys don't have full control over how people.
Well, that's a good point in this particular case.
I don't think it's
This particular case,
the AOC or Judge Newman, so why don't we hold off on that for the rest of the morning?
What should we ask?
I just want to say, when Helen passed, and she was not replaced, and she was a full-time, and she was also the second deputy administrator for the court.
You just have to be careful about the court staff, because if you put it too low,
Ellen,
AOC
sorry,
will call you
Ellen.
up until you gotta hire someone else.
Yes.
You just gotta be careful about the staff, because if you get it too low and you clog up the system and the AOC comes down, they'll make you hire people and their formula.
Based
I
on
promise
our
you guys more people than you have in there right now.
Well, Eugene just brought up a good point, is that when Ellen passed away, they didn't replace her in
Full-time,
part-time.
It was part-time.
So
So it would be, this is the part-time.
This
So,
is the part-time.
again, back to my original, there's no bandwidth for anybody to take up that slack. We have to hire.
This is
part-time.
this is a need of about 20 to 25 hours, so the short answer to that is no. It's just, I mean, it's a short, for somebody right now who's got that amount of hours, nobody right now in the borough that I can foresee, and with that skill set to be able to work in the court and the experience to work in the court right now for 20 to 25 hours.
Michael, I think that.
I
I understand your question.
Yeah, no,
And
I'm sure we're never gonna
completely-
get to the attrition
I
part.
completely agree with you in your basic premise. What our administrator was saying is that even if we had the available human power in some of the other departments to fill in, they can't do it anyhow because they have to be certified by the AOC because it's a very technical position. Anybody working in the municipal court has to be a certified employee by the administrative office.
That's the background check. to get access to the court.
So, we can't just move, but what Michael is saying is that we should take a look at our numbers to see whether or not it's required. I don't know if it is. If it is,
If it's required, there's no question.
Yeah.
Before.
But the AOC has a standard, that's what Greg was saying, and they have a table, they know exactly what the inflow and the outflow is, with the backlog. Now,
And they're all former, these are court administrators who protect the union, but they belong to prior to becoming working
And
for
we
the
have a very
So
busy
they have a
court.
very broad, they have a very liberal view of how many people you need in there
Yeah.
to. They
So
don't take a conservative approach to staffing. I had an argument with them in Allentown, they wanted 4 people in Allentown's court.
This is for the position of
We had one
violations
one
clerk. We
person,
have
it's a
one
part-time person.
full-time violations clerk left.
Just gotta be real
That's
careful
it.
with that.
We have one that resigned, which was part-time. So we're down to this one full-time violations clerk. And for a court that has essentially 2 courts that we're managing, 3 personnel, and on top of that, we have a volunteer, a retired court administrator, I believe it is, that comes in and volunteers just because she doesn't want to stay at home. So even that, you
So we're making it up
know, this
there.
is a legitimate need.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Understood, but I'm always gonna have you.
No, that's fine.
Always
And
gonna have you.
I wouldn't, and I expect you to, and I think that's great. That's what your role is, and you know, I will always say that if I'm recommending it to you, I've looked at it.
And I'm gonna have you take a second.
I absolutely.
And this will be posted on the website.
It'll be posted on the website, but this will also go to, unlike others, you know, as Mr. Cannon was alluding to, it'll be posted on the court system as well. The courts have their very own specialized domain of things, so it will be posted on the court circles.
I think it's something we need to do.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
okay, any correspondence?
No correspondence. We should just have a brief executive session after
Right.
public comment.
Okay.
Public comment
Any members of the public wish to comment?
on a governmental
Ms.
issue.
Burnham?
Cindy Burnham, 71 Wallace Street. So is it my understanding that we did not get the grant yet for East Side and Mohawk Pond?
We're going to be addressing, the administrator will address that.
Okay. So you can't tell me if yes, we got it or no, we didn't?
Which grant are you referring to?
The one from Monmouth County, the matching grant, 250 for East Side Park and Mohawk Pond?
The one that was just applied for?
The one
Yes.
for East Side Park. I don't know if it was when it was applied for.
Well, there's one we got, that's what we were talking about. There was a second one that was just applied for, so which one are you referring to?
I guess what's the first one for?
East Side Park as well. Again, there's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, all for East Side Park and Mohawk Pond.
Okay. So we did get that one?
We got phase 1.
We got one.
2015.
Okay. All right, that was my question. The other question or statement I want to say is I've been getting a lot of concerns from the people on East Bergen. They're very concerned about their trees. They've been calling me. And I think it would behoove us, if something has to happen with a tree, that you go to the door, you knock on the door, and you talk to that person, because these people are very adamant about these old sycamores. And they're very concerned. So I'm just
Okay.
letting you know.
No, it's a point well taken. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Scott.
Sue Davis, Scobie 25 Cedar Street. I just wanted to comment on Mike. I love all the questions you're asking and follow-ups and really pushing the fact of efficiency, because that's been an issue for a while. We talked about it in the management report, but I really commend you, Mike, for your insight.
Thank you. Anybody else? Ms. Burton.
I want to thank DPW because, Mr. Shahadi, I'm sure you're aware of the emails that I've been sending. I'm trying to organize the brush pickup in the historic, and Ed's been involved. Organize the brush pickup because in our area, brush in weird places prevents parking, creates problems, people have it out for 3 weeks. So I would like to say, and I'd like to have a meeting with the DPW because your website has to change because it's very confusing. They pick up every third Thursday, but you have to call to make an appointment. Well, nobody knows that, and no one's going to call. So why can't we just have it be the every third Thursday pickup? Why do we have to call to make an appointment?
They can buy and pick up.
And the
They
web.
pick up my stuff.
Yeah, but see, it costs money to have somebody going around every day picking up. So we're trying to just get it down the weekend before the day of pickup. And DPW did really good. They didn't get it on Thursday, but they got it on Friday. That counts, it's still in the week. But if we can keep that, and you know, we can, when people put it out, like my absentee landlord, she put it out last week before the,
That was the day you reached out to me.
right.
Because
And
everybody
she
else
just
replied.
left it out there, and she knew. And I said, this is gonna have to sit out there for 3 weeks. So she brought it back in. She goes, I called. I said, but that means they're gonna come in 3 weeks. So it really just needs to be, you know, you need to put warning stickers on their doors. And I did find out where Fairhaven gets their warning stickers and the address. That's it. You put it on the doorknob, warning. And if they do it again, then you fine them. I mean, it's so simple, but it's really important in our area because we do have hospital parking, we have downtown parking, employee parking, student parking, and we park. So, you know, any help, Ed, if we could make, you know, an appointment to talk about this and to change the website so people could understand,
Okay.
that would be great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Don, motion closed. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have a need for an executive session. I don't believe we're not going to be taking any action anyhow, so we will be adjourning to executive session, but no action will be taken. Motion to adjourn. Second.
Second.
All in favor? It is now 8:06. Thank you all. Thank you all.